What's up, buddy? How you been? Another great day. Another beautiful day. Another day for terrible Elden Ring takes. Now, some of you may have seen one of my previous videos, which has actually been trending. People keep clicking on this video, where I talk about Jim Sterling's terrible take on the video game Elden Ring. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of this game. Great game. And Jim Sterling had an insane rant where he said the game needs an easy mode and it's, disabled people. It's not fair that the game's so hard. Okay, this was insane. But it seems like the bad Elden Ring takes have continued to come, and they're now coming from institutional sources such as the New York Times. New York Times wants you to know why Elden Ring is so successful. And frankly, this article, it's a little embarrassing. I don't think this guy knows anything about video games. We're going to talk about it. Don't forget, hit that button, subscribe to the channel. Let's look at the New York Times, where the title here is "In Elden Ring, the struggle feels real. This video game evokes the hardship and disappointment of the pandemic, but also." Did I just call it a pandemic? The pandemic, but also the hope, ladies and gentlemen, the hope of human communion. Okay, well, now this was written by a gentleman named Brian X. Chen. And the way he summarized it is, in Elden Ring, people die again and again and run into one nasty surprise after another. The more you play the game, the more you struggle. It never gets any easier. Sound familiar? So, here's the theory. The theory that Brian's putting out there is that Elden Ring is like COVID. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. And the reason it's popular is that now that we have all suffered through the era of COVID, this video game is like gamifying COVID. It's like we're going, oh my God, this is just like when all my friends died in real life to this disease, but together, through struggle and hardship, we overcame. This is it's a cute idea. I could see this being something some dumb hippie writes on their blog. The fact that this isn't the New York Times is kind of embarrassing. But let's read this. Let's read. And it is, we'll bring up later, but it's a little insulting in a way to say that the game is successful because of COVID. Because it kind of undercuts, all the hard work that did go into it and all the reasons it's actually successful. But we'll talk about that in a second. From Brian X. Chen. Whenever a guy's got an X for a middle name, I don't know what's going. Well, actually, he's Chinese, so they use X's. Sometimes it's like a Malcolm X thing, and I'm like, did you make your middle? It probably stands for G or whatever. Okay, now I'm being racist. In the last 2 years, he says, the pandemic has brought many works of art which have tried to definitively capture humanity's struggle. There was the movie where Leonardo DiCaprio shouts to people, look at the comet hurtling towards Earth. That was that movie, Don't Look Up. Again, a comet's coming, and everyone's so politically divided they can't deal with it. He says, it was so on the nose that it provoked little thought. Yes, we are divided, likely doomed. What of it? But no medium has come so close to perfectly encapsulating our situation as video games. Now, this guy, is this guy like a big gamer, Brian Chen? He doesn't seem to write video game articles. And as some people are bringing up, they're like, listen, man, you can't just have your random tech guy write video game articles. Because a lot of what you're saying, like, oh, people die in the game all the time, and, you have to work together. That's in all sorts of video games. It's been in other Dark Souls type video games made by the same company. And those games were popular as well. I don't think they got more popular because of COVID, but let's see. In the beginning, when many of us were in lockdown and baking mediocre sourdough, we played Animal Crossing, where we found comfort in simple tasks like fishing and gardening while stranded on an island. This year, we're playing Elden Ring, a ruthlessly difficult game that gets harder the more you play it. Well, I would question, are the same people playing Elden Ring right now playing Animal Crossing? Because I like Animal Crossing, but I played it years ago. I did not get the new one on the Switch. I did not make time for it. And I would think it's different types of gamers. Yes, there's some crossover. But I don't think people went... Are the same people playing Elden Ring who are playing the game where you run around and make friends with animals? It feels like a different group of people. But then again, it does seem like a lot of people are playing Elden Ring, so I could be wrong. Elden Ring has a story to do with a ring. Okay, he talks about the basic plot of the story. You'll die again and again, sometimes for hours. Even the most experienced gamers will die dozens of times before reaching the boss. Can you believe it? At some point in the game, you'll face a dragon. You might need to run away, level up, come back, and fight the dragon. What does any of this have to do with COVID, Brian? Tell me. Okay, here we go. And here's where he's wrong. This is just wrong. This is a silly thing to say. It's difficult to imagine Elden Ring having this sort of cultural cachet in any other era. I disagree, but let's read on. In year 3 of the pandemic, as vaccination rates have risen and hospitalization cases have dipped, many things are reopening. To some Americans, the dragon has been slain. Hold on. So you're now... This is... A lot of people have said this reads like a high school essay, you know, that just kind of makes these wild jumps in logic. So he's saying, in this video game, you face a dragon, just like how in real life, COVID was like a dragon that we have now destroyed, and kind of reaching here, Brian. Yet in other parts of the world, the coronavirus is driving another wave. Is that like a new dragon? Is that like a second dragon? We let our guard down, believing everything was fine from COVID, but now we find there's a bird around the corner to kill us. Our hard-learned lesson of the pandemic. Oh, he's talking about, so we had the momentary lapse where it seemed like everything was going down, and then a variant showed up. So you think in the video game, oh, I've destroyed the big dragon, I'm fine now. And then you find out that there's evil birds coming back around. How is this in the New York Times? To defeat a boss, you can carefully study its moves and plan an attack, or you can cheese it with a cheap trick that requires no skill and ensures victory. Either way, a win is a win. Such a flexible game may resonate with players worldwide at a time when people are choosing their own truth about masks, shots, and information they read online. So, guys, you know how you can fight the boss the hard way, or you could use like special tricks you read online. That's the same as reading information about the pandemic and coming to your own. This is bad. This is bad. This is very bad writing. This is embarrassing. Players mostly suffer through Elden Ring alone, but there's parts so difficult, like boss fights, that people need help from others online. What is that like? To accommodate this, the game, yeah, okay, you can summon helpers. Struggle has always been a central theme. Let's see. He says that the guy who made the game says it was like he saw a car that had trouble getting up a hill, and everybody in the neighborhood got together and pushed the car up the hill. Okay. We come into each other's lives for a minute and disappear and still make an impact, said Keza McDonald, the video game editor for The Guardian and author of You Died, a book about Miyazaki's games. It's not one player versus the game. It's an entire community of players versus the game. By the time I finished Elden Ring with the help of some friends and strangers, I didn't come out of the game feeling more anxious or pessimistic. I ended up making plans with friends I haven't seen in 2 years. Because, just like how in Elden Ring, you endure the battle alone, just like that. You start off alone, and restrictions made it difficult to travel and gather indoors. Now we're in this together. Why not work together just like in Elden Ring? All right, let's be clear. Look, it's like this is cute. And like, hey, it's kind of like, we're all working together. There's like a very vague, I don't know, the spirit of cooperation gets you but you could say that about anything. I mean, you could say that Elden Ring is a metaphor for rebuilding after World War II. Like, everybody comes together after the wake of a tragedy, and we were all going it alone, but I don't think that's why the game's popular. He's trying to say people are playing the game because, just like COVID, we suffered through COVID, and now we need a COVID simulator. And apparently the COVID simulator is the game about wizards and dragons, and this is nonsense. And let's be clear, I'm not the only one with this opinion. Here we have Chris Plante, who is the editor-in-chief and co-founder of Polygon, a terrible outlet run by morons, but I do think he's right here, where he says, listen, guys, you can't have anybody working at the magazine talk about video games, because then you get articles like this where none of you know what you're talking about. Find writers with experience covering games. I know that costs money, But that's important to do because not every game is a cultural revolution, as this man seems to be. It's a new type of video game. We've never seen it before. Can you believe it? Now that COVID is finally over, we have Elden Ring. We've never seen this before, except for, every other game From Software has ever made. Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro. But we've never seen it before, guys. Guys, we've never seen it before, except the 10 other times that we've seen it, and it was very popular those times as well. Here's Stefan, who is also a writer, a Twitch streamer. This guy's more of a gamer, it seems like, who tried to equate a work of art in the gaming industry, the first game in eons that came out finished with no fanfare, with complete content and no DLC, into a supposed high-level think piece about the pandemic. This makes the New York Times look like they know nothing about games. Yeah. I mean, it's a great video game, but to try and say it's, I don't know, the greatest cultural moment of all time. I don't know. It's a very popular game, but I have my own theories on why it's popular. It's a great open world game. I call it, to people who are like, well, what can you compare it to? I call it like kind of a more mature Breath of the Wild, an open world exploration dungeon crawling thing, with, thankfully, the exciting combat we've come to expect from Software and all the other mechanics that come along with that. I don't think it's because of COVID. I think it's just people love exploring. I mean, yeah, I guess I could make the argument, well, you haven't been able to leave your house, so the ability to explore a big, whatever world. But video games have always been about exploring worlds. That's what always been what's appealed. This is just a very well-designed world. And here comes Brian. Here's a quote that people are picking out. It's difficult to imagine Elden Ring succeeding in any other era. How is that difficult? To many Americans, the dragon has been slain. What are you talking about? And Ross McDougal, this is a guy I've seen. Hardcore, what do you call it? He's a musician, obviously a gamer, and a power lifter. I've seen this guy around. Says this line, it's difficult to imagine Elden Ring succeeding in any other era. He says, this line frustrates me and shows an obvious bias to drive home the writer's own narrative. From Software has sold 27 million copies of their previous games. Their success has nothing to do with the pandemic. Yeah, well, I have to kind of agree. I think this game has succeeded for a number of reasons, and I don't think any of them are necessarily because it's a metaphor for COVID. I don't. They started working. I'm pretty sure they started making the game before COVID, so it's not like that influenced the design at all. Granted, I don't think that's what the writer's trying to say, but I mean, it's just any video. I'm trying to think what it does that's like truly, different from other video games that came before. And I'm like, well, the world's just really great to explore. It's fantastic level design. It's the culmination of all the previous From Software games that they've learned so much, and they can, all the systems that work, they've refined them and enhanced them. But I don't think this is like, we've never had a game before where you can work together with your friends towards a common goal. Like, that's the weird thing. That, there's hard parts, but then you can summon your friends for co-op if you're really having a lot of time. If you want to cheese a boss, well, that's just the exact same as interpreting COVID information. I have no idea what this guy is talking about. Point is, guys, I think I do agree the New York Times should probably hire a guy who knows something about video games before they write another one of these ridiculous articles. But why don't you tell me in the comments, do you think Elden Ring is a metaphor? Is it popular because the pandemic put us all in this situation where we go, oh, there's so many dragons. The dragons are everywhere, and you fight one dragon, another dragon shows up, and then we collectively as a society banished the COVID dragon together as a team? Or is it just popular because it's a really good exploration, swords and sorcery, like, action game? I'm going with the latter, but you let me know in the comments. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Definitely check out right now the mailing list for my comic book, Super Killer. We're getting the mailing list going because then when I crowdfund it, I'll be able to let you guys know. So go sign up for the mailing list for my comic book. We got more cool videos coming soon. Vito Nation, I love you, buddy. Thanks for coming by. More videos. I'm making them. I'm working. I got a lot going on. But I'm, because all those dragons I'm dealing with. That's what's holding me up. Whatever.